My name is Councillor Mercy Ume, and I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live on Council's YouTube channel. If I lose connection, Councillor Wesley Harcourt will take over for me. I would like to remind all participants of a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when you speak at the hearing. Please note that the chat function has been disabled. If parties wish to add additional information other than the allocated time to speak, they must use raise hand function so that they are not missed. I also ask that members keep their questions and comments brief to the point. I move to item 1 on agenda. Apologies for absence. None was received. Item 2, declaration of interests. Do members have any declaration of interests?
No, Chair.
Item 3, Hillbrook Common, New Kings Road, London, SW6 4QD. I would like to ask everyone participating to introduce yourself as I call on you. I'll call your first name. We should have with us Harrison, the applicant.
Hi there. Yeah, I did email in, but unfortunately my camera is not working. They said to mention it at the start.
It would have been nice for us to see your face, Harrison. Adrian.
Present. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone.
Lona.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Greta, our licensing officer.
I'm solicitor for the council. Good evening, Chair.
Yes, our solicitor, sorry.
Yeah. And just a quick one, Sheila, who you can see in your screen, is also a solicitor. She's only observing tonight. She's in our planning and licensing team. Thank you.
Thank you. We have objecting, we have residents, we have Malcolm.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Malcolm Hunter from the representing the Residents Association for Hillbrook Common. Hi there.
And you are representing somebody else.
Oh yes, that'll be Zia from down the road. Yeah, she's passed on her representation to me. Yes, thank you for that. Reminding me. Yeah.
Thank you. We have William.
Hi, it's William Smith. I'm just a resident in the New Kings Road.
Okay. We have Linda.
Linda sent her apologies, Chair.
Okay. She's not coming. Okay. We have Michael. Michael? Not yet. Okay, we have Maya. Maya, you are there. Present. Okay. Okay. We have Charlotte. Dexter? Yes?
Yes, representing Berkeley Road, Neighborhood Watch, Berkeley Road residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Councillor Alfonso.
He's just joined, Chair.
Councillor, you are here. We just mentioned your name because you are.
Good evening. Apologies for the delay, Chair. Apologies.
Okay. Welcome. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Procedure. Before we consider the application today, may I confirm that in addition to the main agenda, a supplementary agenda was published on the 7th of October, 2024. Before we consider the application today, please, may I quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. We will hear from the following. The licensing officer will introduce the application, the objectors, the ward councillor, and finally the applicant. Usually, each party will address the committee for a maximum of 5 minutes. Following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any party or other person present at the hearing, except committee members. No party has the right to ask questions of any other party at any time during hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their case or representation. The committee will then retire for deliberation. Upon its return, I will announce committee's decision. Now, can we have the presenting officer, Lona, to introduce the application?
Yes, Chair. One moment. So on the 7th of June 2024, the Licensing Authority received a valid application for a new premises licence in respect of the premises known as Eelbrook Common, New Kings Road, London, SW6 4QD, which was submitted on behalf of A1 Hospitality Limited, the applicant. The applicant has applied for a new premises licence for the sale of alcohol on the premises, the performance of live music outdoors only, the playing of recorded music, and the performance of dance and anything similar, which are as follows. So the performance of live music outdoors only, Saturdays and Sundays between the hours of 12 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. The playing of recorded music outdoors only, Saturday and Sundays, 12 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. The performance of dance outdoors only, Saturday and Sundays between the hours of 12 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. and entertainment similar to music or dance outdoors only, Saturday and Sundays from 12 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. The sale of alcohol on the premises only, Saturdays and Sundays 12 p.m. till 8 p.m. and the proposed opening hours of the premises are Saturdays and Sundays from 12 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. When the application was submitted, the applicant had proposed a number of steps to promote the 4 licensing objectives if the application is minded to be granted. And on the 12th of June, following correspondence with the licensing team, the applicant confirmed that the application was for 1 weekend only, a Saturday and Sunday a year, in August or September, and agreed to add a condition to the license if granted reflecting this. This was further confirmed on the 17th of June when the applicant submitted a resident action plan, which is in the main agenda, which stated that the event would be for 1 weekend a year, Saturday and Sunday in August or September only, and also provided additional ways that the applicant proposes to promote the licensing objectives. On the 17th of July, following correspondence with the applicant and the licensing team, the police agreed to withdraw their representation, as the applicant agreed to add 29 conditions to the licence if granted this evening. And on the 17th of July, following correspondence with the applicant and the licensing team, the environmental protection team agreed to withdraw their representation, as the applicant agreed to add a further 6 conditions to the licence if granted. During the consultation period, the licensing section received 67 representations objecting to the licensing application being granted, and 1 representation of support of the application, which was during the consultation period. I can also confirm, in addition to the main agenda, a supplementary agenda was published on the 7th of October 2024, which contained additional information from an objector. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Lona. Now, I'm going to go to the residents. Please, there's no point repeating what somebody else has said, please. So we have Malcolm. I'm going to give you 10 minutes because you are speaking on behalf of Inman Sadiq. So 10 minutes for you, 5 minutes for yourself, 5 minutes for Zara.
Thank you very much. Well, look, I am new to all of this, so I do apologise if I don't get things quite right. I thought I'd just, and I will be quick, but just a bit of context. So Eelbrook Common Residents Association is relatively new. I'm the co-chair. We've actually got to over 100 members, so we're thinking we're doing quite well. We are in no way opposed to events on the common. We will welcome events that we consider to be appropriate to the environment and we consider to be to the benefit of the community and to the local community. We don't think this event is that, by the way. We think it's the wrong event in the wrong place. I'll come on to our reasons for that. One thing we would just say beforehand, and I know this is not part of this, is that events of this scale do require, we think, proper consultation with the local residents. And our view would be that the events team, that simply has not happened. And I'll give you a specific example. So we asked the events team on May the 6th of this year, what were the forthcoming events on the common and what events were planned. They replied to us on the 13th, and they made no mention of this event at all in their reply. We found out about the event by accident. As I think since our councillors have asked for whether there was a consultation. It was said that there was a consultation. It's stated that we were consulted. We weren't. And then since then, we have asked for the results of that consultation, and they have never been forthcoming. So that's a little bit of context. Okay, I'll stop there with the negative and go on to the other side. So just again, a bit more Eelbrook Common. So Eelbrook Common, I think as everybody knows it, is a relatively small green space, heavily used, family friendly. And I think according to Time Out and Google Maps, it feels like it's got a village feel in an urban area. So I think that's the context of it. It's very, very heavily used. If nobody's been down there on a hot summer's day, you will see just how crowded it gets. All the space gets used up. Picnics, parties, sunbathing, exercise, informal sports, dog walking. So that kind of thing is what's going on. And it's a major cut through as well. So all the pathways are heavily used. So that's a bit of context. As I said, I think we do think that we're not opposed to events, but we think this is the wrong event in the wrong place. And we think that the impact on the local people will not be particularly positive. Is it possible? I did send a deck through. I've discovered it's inadmissible and I understand why. Is it possible to refer to any of the packs just for visuals? I sent a deck through which had visuals, which I hoped would make some of these points a little bit clearer, because when they're visual, that makes it easier to understand. Is it possible to refer to chart 41 in the main pack?
I think so, because you already presented it.
Presented what?
What do you
Oh, and the chart 41 is from the festival organizers. It's in the main pack. If we could just, is it possible for somebody to get that up? Do I have to get it up?
Malcolm, people
I
just
wasn't allowed to.
refer it.
Okay.
If I refer to
Did you just tell everyone what page
chart
number it
41
is,
in
and people...
chart 41 in the main pack is this is the proposal from the festival organizers. And chart 41, if you have a look at that, you would conclude that this does not look like a food and drink festival. This looks like an urban music festival. It looks like street music. It looks like noise. And there's a big question mark about who that's going to be. Who would that attract? So our view would be that that just doesn't feel right, this area. So that is in the pack, chart 41. So that doesn't feel to us like a food and drink festival. That feels like an urban music festival. We think that's inappropriate for the area. In the supplementary pack, Charlotte Dexter very kindly produced a kind of superimposed the area that's proposed by the festival organizers onto the common. So it's actually in the pack. If you look at that, you basically will see, and if you discount the fact that although the common, let's say the common is 5.5 hectares, but 1.5 hectares of that common is not really available public space. It's either hard serviced or used for sports, or it's closed off. So you've got about 4 hectares of space there. So that's a small space. This proposal takes up a quarter of that. So that's taking up a quarter of a limited amount of space on the common. We believe that our view would be that is clearly depriving local people of their preferred uses of the park, because it's such a big area in a small space. If you are there and you see where this proposed event is taking place, it is taking place next to a very heavily used children's playground. Not only is it taking place next to a very heavily used children's playground, it looks like from the map, the design provided by the organizers, that the exit and entrances are right next to the children's playground. So I think our view would be that is a children's safety issue overall. The exit and entrances are right next to a very heavily used park. 5,000 people. It is difficult to imagine what 5,000 people is. If I had been able to present my chart, I'd have shown you my local picture of the Putney End at Fulham football ground. That's got a capacity of 6,000. Okay, that's a lot of people. When you look at that, when you look at the Putney End full of people, there's a lot of people in there. So 5,000 people in an area which actually is considerably smaller than the Putney end. I mean, talking about the event itself, considerably smaller than that space seems like an excessive amount of people in such a small space. So we would call that, I think we would call that out as a public safety issue. We also think that because of the pathways are used, if you've got alcohol, if you've got 5,000 people, if they're in a heavily used area, there could be public disorder and public safety issues. And then the final issue I think that we've got, I think this has been raised, is the suitability of this company for these events. So there was a BBC article, January 2024. Now, some context here. So Toby Mullins is the CEO of A1 Hospitality. He's also the CEO of T&M Leisure. T&M's Leisure is responsible for Stories in the Park in Reading, and the BBC reported drunkenness and antisocial behaviour in the streets. And at the same time, the company was asking for the 5,000 limit to be raised to 10,000. So our question would be, this is an events company that the BBC have run reports on negatively, and we would ask whether we think that this company therefore is suitable for Eelbrook Common. So we think just against the criteria, public disorder, children's safety, we're very concerned. Basically too many people in the park, and then a concern about the company itself. There we are. That's it.
Thank you, Malcolm. And can we have William to speak? 5 minutes. Is William here?
Yep, William is here.
Okay.
Hi, good evening,
Good evening.
Councillor Mercy. And look, I'm an interested resident of New Kings Road. I've been here for many years in the borough. I can't really add anything more to the very eloquent comments that Malcolm has just made. I think he, in the time available, has summarised very concisely what the concerns are and what the residents of the area believe the common is for. It is for the quiet enjoyment for all ages, and the imposition, and of course it's not just 2 days, because I did ask some questions before about how long the event was going to take to set up, and the setup, I think it was indicated it was 2 to 3, 4 days to set the event up, and 2 to 3, 4 days to take the event down. Is that correct, or are my facts wrong?
We don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so
we will ask the question. Don't worry.
I did ask some questions about it quite some time ago of the councillor. I could forget her name. I beg your pardon, Lorna, I think. An awful lot of questions weren't answered. Like, it's going to be well over a week of disruption in the middle of the summer, and I don't think when we ask what I would describe as perfectly valid questions, I think we deserve, as members of the community, some answers. I mean, there are so many commercial projects on there. I mean, at the moment there's a circus on there for 2.5, 3 weeks. I think it's open for 2 days a week, but there's huge trucks and things on there. That's a children's circus and fairground, but none of the things that we would expect to protect the grass and protect the surrounding areas are put in place. It's shedding down with rain at the moment, and that place, after 2.5 weeks, will be a quagmire. This is a common, and I mean, I'm not a legal person, but the definition of a common should be for I think the quiet and sometimes slightly noisy use of the residents, and not as a sort of commercial enterprise. I'm sure I'm not allowed to ask the question, how much are the council getting for this event? I presume the organisers are paying it. I don't know if I can ask that question. I would get an answer, would I?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We will ask the questions ourselves.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know how much, whatever. But again, as I say, in summary, I think the points made by Malcolm were extremely eloquent, and I'm just totally supportive.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I have Linda is not here yet, so I think we move on to Paul.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Paul Webster. I'm a resident of Delvino Road, and Delvino Road is situated between Parsons Green and Eelbrook Common. And my concern here is about the prevention of public nuisance. And the reason for that is that it's very unclear, and I know Lorna's provided a lot of information, it's very unclear the number of people that will be attending the event, because it's a free ticketed event for 5,000 people. What is unclear is whether or not it's going to be kind of like one in, one out. So we'll actually get more people coming to the event than 5,000. And my concern is, first of all, the number, 5,000, it's a lot of people. What could happen is that we could end up with a lot of people going drinking in Parsons Green because it's 5 minutes away from Eelbrook Common. We've got 3 pubs, we've got 3 supermarkets to get alcohol that can be drunk on Parsons Green. Walk through to Eelbrook Common. Equally, Eelbrook Common has Sainsbury's, it has a number of things at Fulham Broadway, less than 5 minutes to get to Eelbrook Common. So my concern, first of all, is that the item of public safety, how many people will actually be coming into the borough? It says within the demographic that they're trying to attract, it would be families and 30-year-olds. I mean, the reality is depending, because there will be free tickets, I do anticipate that there will be a wide range of people going to it. If you have a think about it in terms of public safety, dogs are allowed at this event. Pushchairs were allowed at this event. The fact of the matter is, if you look at the map, 5,000 people will not fit into that area. In line with the council's recommendations on toilets, 5,000 people would require 50 toilets at that event. They're not shown on any of the maps at the moment. So my first point is I think that when you actually have a look at 10,000 square meters, that's less than 2 square meters per person, you will find that the whole area is going to be incredibly crowded. So I don't believe that if you want to have 5,000 people within that closed area, that is realistic. Then my second point is that you'll have to have, depending on how many people are coming, whether there are more than 5,000 because of the, depending on the ticketing, we could well see people then drinking in the parks. And my biggest concern around public nuisance, and this has been shown out by Chelsea parades, I've lived in the area for over 20 years, Chelsea parades and also COVID, we had a lot of people drinking on the greens and then using the neighbouring streets and front gardens as toilets. And therefore, I would suggest that if we do go ahead with this, there are a few things that I would like to see. Number one is toilets near the exit at this festival, effectively. That is done well in Polo in the Park, where they put all the toilets near the exits so that people go and use them before they leave it. I think that's quite important. The second point is additional portaloos. I think you're going to need to have, if you go ahead with this event, some additional portaloos on Eelbrook Common, whether for people queuing for the event before it or afterwards. And I also think you will need portaloos on Parsons Green. If you do not have any of those, there will be a public nuisance, as demonstrated by COVID. I think the other things that you should seriously think about are stewards on Eelbrook Common and also on the residence roads between there. This happens effectively when Fulham leave their football ground, when Chelsea leave their football ground, with just 12 security officers, which is being proposed. And I think it's quite ridiculous what's actually within the proposal. With just 12 security officers on site, that will not look after 5,000 drunk people. And my final point is, it finishes at 8:30 in the evening. Think about a hot summer day, 8:30 in the evening on a Saturday. What do you think those people are going to do? Young people. They are going to continue drinking in the borough. And they don't have respect necessarily, because a lot of these people are going to come in from outside of the borough. It's stated within the objectives of the people, the catchment area from the people from Wandsworth. And it will just be like COVID. You will find that the event itself, bearing in point my points about public safety, will probably execute okay. However, you will get a lot of people on the green drinking, and there will be unsociable behaviour.
Well, your time is up. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we go to Michael. 5 minutes. Is Michael here? Okay. Maya?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. 5 minutes.
You can. Okay. Well, 5 minutes. Okay. Well, the first thing I'd like to point out, I'm representing the Fulham Society, which has some 700 members in Fulham, many of whom live around Eelbrook Common. Eelbrook Common is designated as metropolitan open land, which means that you're not allowed to build on it. And I find it quite difficult to understand who has to give permission for the enclosure of certain parts of the metropolitan open land, because obviously this area is going to be enclosed, and you're a licensing operation. So who is going to give permission for the metropolitan open land to be temporarily enclosed? Because presumably that doesn't come within your remit. And metropolitan open land has no planning consent for it, and I imagine that there are limitations on enclosures of it. So I'd quite like to know what's happening on that front. The second thing is this is happening in August, which is the middle of the summer. It's the school holidays. Most of the Fulham children will be around, and to deprive them for over a week of a larger part of the Eelbrook Common, and especially the area near their playground, which other people have mentioned, I think is absolute nonsense. Eelbrook Common is always very, very busy in summer. You have to go there any weekend and see that hundreds of people are lying on the grass. This will absolutely not be possible when it's occupied by 5,000 people all drinking. I think that what I am really concerned about is that the applicants have asked for perpetual permission once a year. I think large events like this should only be applied for 1 year at a time. And I would protest very strongly about them if they're given permission for this year, then if they want to do it again next year, they should certainly apply again. To give them continuous permission, I think is absolutely wrong, and beyond the responsibility of the council to be able to do that. So essentially, my points are that I'm not sure who is entitled to give permission for it's literally about a quarter of Eelbrook Common, which will be out of use for over a week during the middle of the summer holidays, probably if it's done in August. Who gives permission for that to be done? That it'll have a very deleterious effect on the local residents, with a quarter of Eelbrook Common out of their use for at least a week, probably in August. And apart from the fact that I think obviously 5,000 people coming in, the question of lavatories, etc., which everybody has agreed on, the hour of 8:30, to have people drinking from 12 to 8:30 on Eelbrook Common, the amount of drink that can be consumed during that time is absolutely enormous. And as everybody says, there are lots of pubs around. And then to have continuous music again for the whole weekend, however they explain it, is if there are lots of music venues in the site, there's going to be a very loud noise. So the local residents will be disturbed by the noise. And then the local residents in the streets coming to and from Eelbrook Common will be absolutely inundated. People have to arrive by bus, which is possible. People have to arrive by tube. There'll be intense pressure on car parking. So altogether, the Fulham Society feels that this is not a suitable place to have a large venue like that in the middle of the summer holidays when local families are all at home. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I think we have Charlotte now. We have 5 minutes.
Yes, could I just clarify? Lorna has an email that I'm also representing the co-chair of the Eelbrook Association, Sarah Hyde. Lorna? Hello?
Lorna is there. Lorna, is she representing another person or just for herself?
Oh. I need to just check my emails. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Charlotte, can you forward me the email? I can't seem to find it. If you've got it to hand.
Yes, I'll do that. Maybe somebody else can speak in the meantime. I don't know. I'm not trying to hold things up. Sorry.
Sorry, it's Malcolm here. Is it possible to answer Maya's question about?
Sorry, no, they can. You are not supposed to ask questions to anybody.
I was going to answer her question.
Members. Yes.
Is that okay or not? No, I can't answer the question about who gives permission.
Well, no,
that's fine. That's fine.
It's the committee members will ask those questions need be.
Okay.
But Councillor Alfonso, do you want to speak while we are waiting for? I wanted the councillor to speak last.
I'm happy to. My comments will be brief as
okay, all right.
Others have done an exceptional job already.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. Okay, while we wait.
Thank you. So I'd like to focus in. My main objection to this is effectively the prevention of public nuisance. It is the fact that when this company ran a similar sort of event in Reading, it was disastrous for the community. I mean, we're talking about public urination, the smashing of glass, just the volume of noise in the area. And in Reading, it was not as close to residential an area as it is here. So that is what I would like the committee to focus in on, the fact that there will be clear issues with the prevention of public nuisance. I think Malcolm, who's an excellent co-chair of the Ilbrook Common Residents Association, has made excellent arguments on the various other reasons, so I won't chime in on those. I think Maya from the Fulham Society as well, and my residents, William and Paul, have also done an exceptional job on that. So I would like, basically, Chair, the committee to focus in prevention of public nuisance. We've seen these people run events before. There have been BBC articles about it. We don't want that happening here. And frankly, it's 5,000 people right next to a children's playground.
Thank you, Councillor. Luna, have we received the email?
I can't find it.
No, I've just looked. I can't find an email that confirms that.
Okay. All right. It's definitely there, but there we go. All right. Good. So should I speak now, Chair?
You speak, but it's 5 minutes.
Yes. All right. So I'd just like to, the people who are wondering, the council will receive £3,511 from the event organizers. There's a chart under events, LBHF, you can find it. And that's the amount for commercial, not corporate people. If they pen themselves as commercial event, then it would be 3,511. Also, as far as the, I just would like to say, Berkeley Road backs onto Ilbrook Commons. So our residents use it, as so many do, every day, for the children and for walking through and dog walking and enjoying just the sunshine and the open air and the beautiful trees. There are trees there that are 400 years old, from the time of Cromwell, when he lived right across from the common, actually. So our concern, I've put together our representation as well as our supplemental, and we are very concerned about this whole idea of the maximum capacity at any one time being 4,999, and any one time is key. And this has already been covered by Mr. Webster, that could be, well, one in, one out, therefore a lot of people coming. You could have 20, 30,000 people approaching the common. We're also concerned that we realize that the police have agreed to everything and that the noise people have basically seen nuisance as noise. Not a lot has been addressed regarding other nuisance. And we put the map together so that you could see that, there are residences on two sides of the common, heavily populated, and then Kings Road as well. So I thought I would just go quickly through a few points in the licensing policy itself, because the licensing policy on page 9 of your agenda pack, policy 3, it talks about potential to have an adverse impact. What, if any, appropriate measures will be put in place to prevent it on local residents? That's A. I think part of what's lacking here is local residents being concerned, but the potential festival organizer not really dealing with anything beyond the perimeter of his fenced in area, taking up 25% of common land. Speaking of which, common land, you can't just put up fences and put up temporary platforms and so on for events like this. You need consent from the Secretary of State. And Ilbrook Common is Common Land 13, and Parsons Green is Common Land CL 23. This is from the 1967 Metropolitan Open Spaces Act. So there are many more steps to go through, depending on what happens tonight with this application. Further on page 9, whether the activity will be likely to lead to a harmful and unmanageable increase in car parking demand in surrounding residential streets suffering high levels of parking stress, or on roads forming part of the strategic London road network and on London Bus Priority Network. So King's Road is one of those roads. It's the A308. It's a red route, and it is part of the London Bus Priority Network with the number 22 bus, one of the oldest numbered buses still in existence in London. This brings up the point that there's no traffic plan. In licensing, you're not required to have a traffic plan or a transport plan. But when you're talking about 5,000 to maybe scores more of people coming to this area, then a lot more needs to be thought through from a public safety and a nuisance standpoint between Ilbrook Common and Fulham Broadway Tube Station and Parsons Green Tube Station. And we'll have a similar situation to when we have football games. But with football games, as I noted somewhere, we have 600 police for a football game at Chelsea. And we have 800 stewards outside of the grounds, outside. Inside, there are even more. So here we have 10 stewards who, will be making sure people have their little tickets. So I think it behooves the applicant tonight to come square about the numbers involved here. He can only make money if he has several thousand people coming to this event. That's clear. You can't have 30 stands and 30 food stands and 20 drink stalls and so on without, you have to make money somehow. So he doesn't probably want to tell us exactly how many, but it's not going to just be a few hundred people. And it's not going to just be 800 people either. And that's the big concern. So I would like to point you to page 12.
I'm afraid you got to, if 5 minutes is up, Charlotte. Yeah, please. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Right. So now we have to go to the applicant. Can I ask the applicant, to speak? I'm allowing you 40 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. So to give you an overview, the festival that we're sort of planning here is really a food and drink event that we are looking to take guests on a journey of discovery. I know that we've ran other music-led events before, of which some people today have referenced, and they're very correct in saying that they were picked up in the papers, because when going through a licensing process, especially when going from 499 to a higher capacity, it is often in the public interest to report about that. So regional press and the BBC do have a regional press department, of which that article was put through. And yeah, they have interest, a public interest, to sort of let people know about that. So it's not always a negative thing if the press pick up about applications. So Discover is a street food and drink festival concept that embodies our passion for street food markets, intertwines with the world of craft drinks and entertainment. Discover aims to take guests on a journey of discovery through the world of food and drink, and help guests to sort of discover new flavors, cultures, and information about maybe their favorite brands. So this isn't a music festival where the main aim of the event is to enjoy loud music or to listen to your favorite artists or DJs or live performers. And that's reaffirmed by the environmental health and the stipulations that they've put onto the license as well around noise. And clearly the noise levels that is discussed and the conditions that have been placed there wouldn't actually allow for this event to be heavily music focused. In addition to that, we are planning on having alcohol brands there. So yes, the idea is that there will be alcohol brands there, but what we're not looking to do is to have brands there simply serving drinks. It is really a discovery journey, so we want brands to be able to talk to customers and to be able to showcase new products and really explain about products that a lot of them have spent a lot of time perfecting their craft. So it really isn't simply just a case that there'll be a bar in the corner, serving standard spirits. A lot of the bars are having like custom made bars for this event. And there'll be brand reps from the brands at the events and really sort of talking to guests. So it's really not simply just a case that there'll be a bar in the corner. In addition to that, the event is very heavily food focused. And with that, our aim is to have a very mixed demographic, as some have mentioned, but also our event is ran in sessions. So it isn't necessarily a case that an attendee would be there for the whole day. They may come for just one session. In addition to lots of things that were mentioned tonight, we also have a lot of work that we'll be doing with the safety advisory group. Despite getting the license or not getting the license, we would still be doing a lot of work with the safety advisory group, and obviously a lot of work with the police around security numbers, which was one of the points mentioned, and stewards. We would also sort of like to mention that there is quite a few events that happen on Ilbrook Common, such as the circus, which some people have mentioned, that take over a similar amount of land for a longer period of time. And this has been something that's been there for quite some time and happening regularly year on year. In addition to that, there were some comments over how many days will the event be live for, and the event is live for the Saturday and Sunday. And the pre-event build is likely to take a minimum of 2 days and a maximum of 3 days. And the break is going to be a minimum of 1 day and a maximum of 2 days. So just to clear up, there'll be a minimum of 4 days, including the live days, and then a maximum of 7 days. In total, entrances to the event and the exits, we're very flexible and would like to work with residents. So if that's something that residents either today or post today would like to discuss, we're more than open to look at how we can modify the entrances or the exits to make sure that they're fitting for anyone that is looking to go to the park. The month of August and September, one of the reasons why we picked that is because it was often mentioned by some of the local businesses that it's actually quite a quiet time for them. A lot of people within the area go away. And so that was another point, is that hopefully it wasn't in such a peak period. Music festivals tend to have very loud music, and certainly with environmental health, we have worked with them to come up with some stipulations to make sure that this doesn't turn into an urban music festival as referenced. In addition, we did send a resident pack out with some resident action plans, And one of those was to we're happy to have meetings with the residents to discuss how we can make sure that this event can coexist. In addition to that, we mentioned about how we'll have arrangements for deliveries to minimize noise. So we'll have delivery schedules so that stuff is delivered to the site between certain hours, which we propose to be 9 and 6 p.m. So 9 a.m. in the morning until 6 p.m. Sorry. On the build days, for example, access and arrival for vendors. We'll make sure that this is within the same period on a pre-agreed day and the day of the trade, so that they don't arrive before. We also mentioned that we would have a resident direct line, so that residents can have a direct line into the event and into the management team, so that if there is things that happen, either during the build or the live dates or even the break period, they've got a direct line into the management team, either via email or via telephone, so that they can raise points quickly and not sort of have to wait for a reply. And that means that we can sort of work to action things that are feasible or reasonable, during the event. So it's not something that we have to wait until, if the event was to come back next year, we'll add it into next year. We can be really reactive. We're also happy to, as I mentioned before, speak with residents for any ideas that they may have, to make sure that the event can coexist, and also make sure that there might be simple things such as moving the entrances or moving the exits, and actually if that could help to mitigate some of the issues that have been mentioned today, then we're more than happy to work with residents to sort of discuss potential options. Also, we mentioned around the resident cleaning team, so we would actually conduct a litter pick, obviously within the park, but also within the surrounding areas each day, during the day, and then an extensive clean in the evenings as well, just to make sure that we don't have any excess rubbish within the area that's directly from sorry if you heard a noise in the background, directly from the event, but also if there's rubbish just in general, we'll look to collect that as well. We won't be selective. So there's a lot that we would like to do with the residents to make sure that we can kind of put this event on together. But as some residents mentioned, this event is certainly not a music festival. This event is heavily led by the food. The drink is a supplement to that. In addition, people have discussed about the demographics. This is very much, a family-focused, middle-aged professional-focused event that allows dogs and welcomes families to come. And we will work with our safety team and also our health and safety advisors and the SAG to make sure that the numbers are appropriate for the area. Simply we won't be pitting in 5,000 people if it's not appropriate. So from our point of view, we very much feel like this is led by the food and drink. It's a high-end food and drink experience. We're bringing in Michelin star chefs to do their version of street food. We're bringing in some of the top street food vendors from around the world, from around the UK, to bring a real sort of culinary experience to the area, and to London in general. So from our side of things, this is certainly not a music event. I also know that one of the councillors and some of the residents have focused on Stories in the Park, which is an event ran in Reading, which is correct. But this is very much a music event, and businesses are allowed to run multiple styles of events. We as event organisers may put on a concert 1 week and then a food festival the week after, and we can't be penalised for that. And so it is very much in our interest to make sure that this is a food and drink event, because for us, we are looking to come back year on year, and also for us, there's a real keen interest to make sure that we can work with residents and actually what we say we will do, because again, we want to be able to come back year on year. We did try to work with Charlotte Dexter probably a lot during the sort of pre-application, and also after we put the application in, but the communication there sort of failed, and the sort of steps, the reasonable steps to try to mitigate against some of the concerns weren't possible, and it resulted in simply just getting text messages to sort of articles of the stabbing in Notting Hill, which is not relevant to the case, and it was starting to feel a bit like a personal attack, because anything that happened in London, we were getting sent articles to anything violent, and it tended to be anything violent from anyone from the Black community, of which we are. So it doesn't feel like, it does start to feel a little bit like it's impossible to work with Charlotte on this, and it starts to feel like when we're getting sent articles from outside of the sort of immediate area that we're looking to work in, that from events that aren't anything to do with Notting Hill Carnival is not a food event, and Notting Hill in general, the articles that we were getting sent weren't food related. It wasn't a stabbing from a food festival. So I think here we need to be really conscious that we keep this event, and we keep the sort of discussions around it being a food festival, and we can't really focus on things such as stories in the park. In terms of toilets, for certainly the demographic that we're looking to attract, we certainly will make sure that we have enough toilet provisions. I think it's a great idea to have toilets near the exit. I think it's also a great idea to have some toilets, for people, whilst they're queuing. These are simple steps to take that can actually be really effective. So I completely agree on that. I think that in terms of stewarding within the local area, that's definitely something that can be done, as long as it doesn't involve road closures. So we'd have to be careful around how far the SIA can go away from the site, and things like that. But certainly we would want to make sure that people get home safe, and also don't linger around or any antisocial behaviour. One of the reasons why we cut the event to 8:30 finish time is because we felt like that was an appropriate time to make sure that we try to mitigate against some of these issues raised around noise, around antisocial behaviour. At that time of the year, it'll still be light. There will be other venues for people to go on to after, if they were to choose to have and some further food or drinks within the local area. And of course, that's going to help local business in a period that potentially local residents go away. So it could actually help the local businesses. In addition to that, I think that it's a positive thing that a food and drink event is happening on the common, because hopefully residents will be able to benefit from coming down and trying some of the local food and drink traders that will be there, of which there is a few. We always like to work with local street food traders and local brands that beverage brands, but also to try some of the brands from around the world that are going to be coming to Ilbrook Common, hopefully to provide food. So from our side of things, we really want to work with residents, and we want to make sure that we can have some actionable steps to make sure that we can mitigate against some of the issues raised. But I think that we just need to be reasonable and not start sort of bringing in events that have happened that aren't relevant, such as music events or stabbings within London that aren't directly coming from food festivals or an event that we organise. But yeah, for now, that's all we've got to say.
Okay, thank you, Harrison. Now we go to committee questions. Can I ask each committee member to ask questions of any party about the application and the issues that have been raised at the hearing in relation to 4 licensing objectives? 1, prevention of crime and disorder. 2, public safety. 3, prevention of public nuisance. 4, protection of children from harm. So can I ask members to ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Yes, sorry, Chair. where the raise hand function is on this screen is different to my other machines. Sorry about that. Yeah, can we begin just by trying to clear up this issue around what is common land and what permission is required to enclose it? I'm presuming, and I will ask this of the applicant as well, presumably the area that we're talking about will be enclosed by something like that, the usual sort of Harris fencing or something like that. But if that constitutes enclosure, what permissions are required and who has the responsibility for granting those permissions? I think that probably needs to go to our licensing team or to the legal.
If there is a permission to build or surround the area, it will go to the planning team. And I understand that planning has been consulted on this application if Adrian and Lorna can, but it won't be a licensing application to grant. Well, it won't be from the licensing team. If it is a common land, my understanding is, and Adrian and Lorna can clarify whether they have the land charges, it can be used for an event with the permission of the council. So the council needs to grant permission, and that is why we are here today, and that's why we are hearing this application. In terms of, and the applicant can clarify whether the area will be enclosed, will be fenced, whether they have approached the planning team and have spoken with them. From the report, I don't see any objection raised by the planning team. But if there is an issue with the fencing, the planning team can not give the permission.
Okay, can I therefore ask that same question to Mr. Hyde? Excuse me. Sorry. About the arrangements for fencing. Presumably it will be something like that usual sort of Harris fencing or something similar?
Yes, that's correct. The plan was to use natural Harris fencing, which is a more natural looking version of the metal Harris fencing.
Okay, thanks. The next thing is about this capacity issue. What is
Councillor, could you wait?
Sure.
Please, can I ask Malcolm and Williams? I don't know why you put your hands up, because the questions has to be from the committee members. You two do not have to ask questions.
Okay.
But
we can answer them though. Can we answer them?
Okay. Okay.
So here's our understanding is this is from Common Land Casework at the Planning Inspectorate. So this is a government body that it's not the council that gives permission, it's the Secretary of State. So application has to be made to the Secretary of State for such an event to take place on common land. That's our understanding. So I suggest that the council absolutely checks that out. It's not for the council to give permission, it's for the Secretary of State.
It depends who owns the land. So it needs to go. So if the council owns the land, well, it is in the responsibility of the local authority, then the council can grant a license for this type of events.
Okay, you sure about that?
I can double check and I'll come back to you.
Okay. Are there other areas, not strictly related here, but are there other areas of common land in the borough?
Shepherd Bush is one of them. I can tell you that the Green is one of them, is common land. And when we had meeting, the police said because it's Hammersmith and Fulham, they have the right to offer the land to whoever they want because they are the one responsible for the land. That's what I was told.
Okay, thank you. I believe that was my understanding, but I wanted it clarified with our legal department for obvious reasons. Okay, the next question then is again to Mr. Hyde. We've heard a lot about the capacity and the numbers and such like, and 5,000. How many tickets are you, presumably you're going to be using some sort of system, either Ticketmaster or Eventbrite or something similar to issue tickets. How many tickets do you envisage being issued, and how many, and just a maximum capacity of 5,000 at any one time, or how's that going to work?
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So essentially, we would be using a ticket platform for this event, and when applying for a license, you apply obviously in for different categories, and the category that best suited us was up to 499 even. So that was the reasoning around that. For us, we are looking to have less people on site, and we'll be working with our health and safety team, and also with the police licensing, and also with the council events team to work on that number. And that's for a number of reasons. The first being that it's a year one event, and so we want to make sure that this event goes well, and so we would potentially look at running under capacity to make sure that if there's any teething issues, we're able to
Anonymous speaker.
deal with that.
He said his camera was broken.
Yeah.
Please, can you mute yourself so we can hear? Okay,
I'm sorry, Mr. Hyde, I missed that last bit because there's interference from one of the other, somebody that wasn't muted.
But yeah, in short, the capacity is going to be worked out by our health and safety team. When applying for a license, you apply up to apply for a bracket, and the bracket that most suited us was up to 49999. But we'll be working with the SAG and also the events team to work on a suitable capacity for us, and that will also be dictated by the number of food traders that we look to have at the event, and also the space that they need to have, and also the space for brands. It's not necessarily a number that we can give right now, because depending on how much space traders need, it will take away from the actual available space for customers. But we would, in short.
Okay, so basically the actual capacity, excuse me again, the actual capacity at any one time is still to be decided.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, a couple of other questions before I hand over to others.
Councillor Harcourt, do you mind if I jump to clarify the fencing of the area?
Yeah.
So as I said, whether or not we are going to grant the permission today, whether the permission will be granted, then erecting a fence will be a matter for the planning authority, which is the council. So the applicant may need permission from the local authority, from us, from the council, from the planning department. And you are right, Mr. Hunter, to say that if they erect a fence, they also may need to speak to the inspectorate, the planning inspectorate, in relation to erecting a fence. So I would suggest the applicant, apart whether or not the license will be granted tonight, they need to investigate whether they have permission to put up fences in a common land. But that is a separate matter from the licensing that we are dealing today.
Okay, thank you. In the conditions that came to Mr. Hyde, again, in the conditions, I think it's the police conditions, they've said that about alcohol is for consumption on site only, and be not allowed to take any alcohol out off the site. Will there be stewards at the exits to prevent anybody taking a half-completed bottle of beer or glass of beer or something out into the local streets, which is something we want to try and avoid?
Yeah, there'll be SIA to make sure that they are able to stop people from taking drinks outside, and that was something that was sort of heavily discussed with the police.
Okay, and one final question for me for now, at any rate, and that's to do with obviously the amount of footfall there's going to be, and if we have weather like we've had recently, the park is going to be, well, there's going to be a substantial amount of damage to the grass. So what do you have by way of in terms of protecting the grass, and if there is damage, what are you going to be doing in terms of restitution afterwards?
Yes, good question. I mean, it's hard to know, what August or September will be like for, in the UK right now. So it's a valid thought for all event organisers, but certainly for this event, we would have trackway going down. A light trackway to make sure it doesn't damage the grass, but we'd have that going down as pathways to different key areas around the site. not the whole site, but as a pathway to key areas, to make sure that we can sort of protect the site somewhat and also make it comfortable for guests, so they can get around the site. Should the grass be a little bit damp or even severely damp. So that will be the steps it will take. In terms of our sort of ethos is to try to leave the site as we found it. I'm sure that within the council contracts for hiring of land, there'll be stipulations around any damage to the grass and how that will be restored.
Okay, thank you, Chair. That's all from me for now.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Afghan. Yes.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Harrison. First of all, it's very unfortunate and disappointing that your camera is not working. So many residents have shown up, and it is a bit disappointing that your camera is not working and we can't really have a proper conversation with you and see the person we're talking to. Somebody who organizes events should have at least that functionality worked out for such an important meeting that's being displayed to the whole borough. Other than that, my first question to you is that you mentioned that your event will be broken down into sessions. How is the ticketing process linked to the different sessions, and how is that linked to controlling numbers during the day?
Yeah, first of all, apologies that you feel like that, and I can appreciate your comments there. In terms of the sessions, so the sessions would be broken down into sessions throughout the day. So as an example, it may be a case that we limit the session times to 3 or 4 hours split across the day. That also helps us to mitigate against excessive drinking and having people there all day. And that simply we would run sessions and then have a period in which there's a downtime at the site. So then there'll be a half an hour changeover period, just to help for people to leave and then new people to come. But yeah, so that's the main reason why we do sessions, is so that we can have less people on site but still do a certain number or a target number across the day. But also it helps to mitigate against antisocial behaviour, because it limits the ability for people to be drinking for 8.5 hours, say, or even eating for 8.5 hours. So yeah, that's the reason we tend to do the sessions.
How would they work?
But then if I understand you correctly, if you're organizing things in sessions, people who will come in will want to stay for a particular music experience that will happen at a different time of the day, a food experience or a comedy experience, because you've got 8 categories here listed as discovery drinks, discovery comedy, and all these events will take place at different times. Now, somebody who wants to come and discover this whole spectrum of offering, then they will not be leaving the venue or the borough once they enter it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point.
I think that the crowd will just build up instead of being dispersed at different times.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. However, each of the entertainment, basically they're booked to do a session in the day and then a session in the evening. So they're identical. So anything that happens in one session would happen in all of the sessions. So, for example, if a comedian,
there'll be repetition of the same thing over the duration of the day.
That's correct. So if a comedian was booked to perform, they may do one performance at 12 till 1, and then a second performance, for the evening session, let's say 5 till 6.
Okay, well then in that case, you'll have to limit the tickets for a 4-hour slot, and after those 4 hours, have a complete changeover, because otherwise, building so many, a footfall of that many people in that area with no clear roads where people can disperse to, apart from New Kings Road, which is right next to the junction with Wandsworth Bridge Road, which is already a very congested junction. It causes disturbance to traffic in the adjacent residential streets, and that is one of my main concerns. The other concern that I have is all the events that you've listed here, all the sessions, Discovery Drinks, Discover DJ, what age group do you think the audience of those events is?
Yeah, so in the past we've we've looked at DJs such as Norman J or DJ Spoonie, who sort of feature on BBC Radio 2 and stations like that, as opposed to stations that appeal to a younger demographic. In addition to that, we do tend to find that people are there to sort of eat, and as I've mentioned before, the entertainment is there for whilst people are eating, and we tend to find that we get a lot of natural dispersion throughout the sessions. So it's not a case that people stay all throughout the session. You do find that people, once they've eaten, they choose to potentially leave within the last hour, or some people might leave even before then. So it's not necessarily a case that everyone would leave at once at the end, but obviously that's not something that we can categorically say wouldn't happen. So I can appreciate your points that you've made, and yeah, I agree. For year one, it would be a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, because I think Discover Drinks and Discover DJs, Discover Comedy, this is for a slightly maturer age group. And as many of the local residents have also pointed out, this park is surrounded on 3 sides by residential streets where there's a lot of young families living. And there's also a children's park, children's built-up area playground, where these families come regularly. And in the month of August and early September, I expect there to be a lot of children using the park. And I feel there is a valid concern from the residents that the event does not quite fit the local use of that park, because it's mostly used by young families and children. And the target audience for Discovery Drinks and Discover Buskers and Discover Comedy is not a younger age group or a family target audience. How do you explain safeguarding on for young families and children in that area? How can you justify that?
Yeah, so I mean, I would suggest, I do genuinely believe that the entertainment that we've chosen to pair with the food is certainly there for a very mixed demographic, and I don't think that young families that live in the area would be alienated from coming to listen to someone from BBC Radio 2 play background music, or to listen to some comedy. My sister lives in the area with a young family, and she potentially slightly biased, but she would certainly come to the event. We know quite a few people in the local area, and there seems to be somewhat of there seems to be like definitely a market for it, but equally obviously with the people that have come on today, that this event would be potentially for that demographic as well. So I'm a bit confused by the comment. If I could just get a bit more clarity on around how this event wouldn't be for young families, with it being food led and the music very much as sort of background music, and having quite a wide variety of entertainment such as comedy or live music and things like that. How does that not fit for families with the Discover Little people, with the kids arts and crafts and stuff like that, and Discover Retail? I just don't, I'm struggling to see how it's not fitting for a young family.
What I see here is that you have thrown in Discovery for Little People, which is a few fun craft activities. But the main purpose of this entire Discovery event is it's a food journey. It's an alcohol, wine tasting, craft beer, and all that kind of, that kind of a food and drink and alcohol discovery journey that you're trying to portray, and you're paired it with music. and I'm not sure how that is something that can happen next to a children's playground.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the event, so sorry, just to be clear, what you're saying is you feel like for a young family wouldn't want to come to the event because the things.
No, I'm talking about safeguarding concerns that this event, the location of this event is right next to a children's playground, a playground that is heavily used by local families and children under the age of 10.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I'm concerned about alcohol use for 4 to 8 hours right next to a children's playground. And I'm concerned about the safeguarding issues that raises.
Yeah, so with regards to the event and it being next to a children's playground, we are we will have security, you know, in and around the playground area. We can have a heightened level of security within that area. In addition to that, you know, obviously our security will be trained to challenge 25, so that no one's getting served alcohol within the area, or people taking alcohol out into the children's play area. And we will also make sure that if we are allowed to have fencing, we could have you know, hard fencing so that children aren't seeing the consumption of alcohol in that area. In addition, the level of music, you know, we've worked with the environmental health to put conditions on there so that the level of music's not going to be a disturbance. And so we'll make sure that we have like a sensible level of music, which obviously has been underpinned by the environmental health department. So we're pretty confident that the event isn't there for people to sort of have excessive amounts of alcohol. Like the idea behind the event is for people to be able to come and discover the world of food and drinks, and the alcohol part of that is very much a discovery journey to discover new products, to discover you know, various different sort of rays of alcohol, and obviously a big focus, you know, within 2024 and 2025 is the 0% range, the low and no range. So we've got lots of you know, interest from sort of non-alcoholic brands as well. So in terms of safeguarding children, if we are allowed to put you know, fencing up, of which we'll have to confirm, you know, after today, if we were to get the license, we would look at, you know, putting you know, hard fencing in around the area of the children's playground so that they can't see into the event. We'd look at having a heightened level of security in that area to make sure that, you know, no one's you know, sneaking in or sneaking drinks out of that area. We would also make sure that we you know, have, you know, stewards placed in and around the area, and we'd also make sure that we've got the Challenge 25, and we could reposition the bar infrastructure as well to make sure that it's not within that area, so that there's not like we could position it in the opposite part of the site.
Thank you so much. Those are all the questions that I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Harrison, in terms of security, how many people are you going to be employing to make sure the place is secure, in terms when you talk of security around children and around other things? So how many people are we looking at?
If we were to have 5,000 people, let's say, just as a maximum capacity, we would make sure that we had you know, one member of security as a minimum per 100, and so we would have like an extensive amount of security on site. Yeah.
Okay. In case there's an emergency and I need to evacuate people, so what have you put in place in case there's an emergency? Is there anything in place?
Yeah, we would have an emergency evacuation plan, which we'd have we'd have that as part of our event management plan, and that would be, you know, for various things such as counterterrorism, would be such as if there was a fire, and we've also in that we've also got a lost children's plan as well.
Okay. You said that, you know, one thing with this kind of thing is that you have a lot of litters everywhere. I know you said you have people to pick up those things. And at times you find that, how many people are you going to be employing to make sure the park is clean if we are granted? Because
so, yeah. So, sorry to interrupt you. So if we were to if we work on our maximum capacity of 49999, we would have you know, a minimum of 25 cleaning team working across the site, and that cleaning team would also stay into the evening for the evening session, and then they would stay for approximately about 2 hours after the event to do a litter clean, you know, for the next day, but also to go around the local area. But that would be our initial plan, and then based on the level of you know, litter, we would then reassess that if we needed to, you know, have people stay later. I'm also keen to let you know that we partnered with a brand called Strudel, edible cutlery, and also cutlery that can go to worm farms, and so there's a big focus on trying to make sure that we can minimize our impact. So traders are incentivized to use our edible plates and edible cutlery, of which we can then recycle and send back to worm farms, so that it doesn't have to go into landfill. In addition to that, we're working with hard plastic reusable cups that will ask people to you know, pay a deposit, and then they can get their money back at the end to minimize single-use plastic. In addition to that, we will have a lot of bin infrastructure around the site to encourage people to put their litter into the bin. It is often said that at these sort of events, especially food-led events with our target demographic, that people are actually inclined, if they can see bins and the bins are well managed, that they will actually leave the rubbish you know, in the bin as opposed to the floor. That being said, you know, rubbish on the way to events, obviously with an increase in footfall, you know, you can't mitigate against that necessarily. So that's why we would have the extensive, you know, litter team to make sure that we've captured, you know, rubbish coming from or from the event. But certainly from our point of view, we're looking at solving the problem, you know, prior to even the gates opening, through using reusable cups, through using the edible cutlery that is easier to you know, to make sure we don't send that off to landfill, and also by having an extensive you know, bin system on site, so that, you know, if people are minded to put their rubbish just directly into the bin as opposed to the floor, it's very able and easy to do that, and the areas of which they're putting the rubbish into the bin are well maintained and well managed, to make sure that people feel encouraged to do so. Often, if people don't see litter on the floor, they're less likely to you know, just chuck stuff on the floor. So our aim is to do a lot of work pre-event to create mitigations away from you know, people just putting litter on the floor, and then also to have a team that's enthusiastic and you know, keen for people to put their rubbish in the bin, by making sure that the area is well maintained throughout the event.
Thank you. One more thing, the residents are quite concerned is about setting up. So it's going to take 4 days setting up, 4 days to clean up. So how long are you thinking it will take to set up?
So the setup, just to be clear, that every day that we're there to set up, like, we have to pay a fee. And so from our point of view, there's a natural incentive for us not to you know, be there for too long. So we would like to be set up within 2 days. So we would start the build on the Thursday and the Friday, and the event would go live on the Saturday and the Sunday, and then we would be packed down by close of play Monday. So that's the ideal situation. So that'd be Thursday, Friday as the build days, and then Saturday, Sunday as the live days, and then Monday as the breakdown day. And at worst case scenario, it would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the build, and then Saturday, Sunday for the live day, and then Monday, and Tuesday for the breakdown. So that would be 7 days in total, as worst case. But from our side of things, we have got a natural incentive to be finished and out of the site by the 5 days. And we hope that if we were granted a license and if we were to do the event in year 2, we would hope to scale that down to the build on the Thursday and the Friday, and then the live dates on the Saturday and Sunday, and then be out by the Monday. So that's where we'd look to go for year 2 if we were to get the license and the event was successful in its first year.
We have a committee member that hand is up, so Councillor Afakan. So yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. You kind of beat me to the question about how long will it take to set up. I was going to ask that same question. So the worst case scenario, you say 7 days. When do the construction vehicles first arrive? Because you've written in your notes that vendors arrive on site between 9 and 6, and they will not be doing setup outside of those times. So when do these construction vehicles start arriving? Because if you say build days are just Wednesday and Thursday, perhaps.
Hello. Harrison, are you there?
Sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, so the build day at worst case was the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And in that case, the food traders are the sort of last piece of the puzzle as such. The main infrastructure that goes down first is obviously the fencing to secure the area, to make sure that people can't come into the area whilst the build is going on. Then the power infrastructure to make sure that there's power on site. And as we're on the topic of power, like we use very we use environmentally friendly generators where possible, depending on availability. And then we also use generators that low noise generators. We also encourage traders to use electric where possible, electric charge banks. But yeah, so then the power goes down, and then infrastructure starts coming in. So any tent infrastructure will come, and also toilets and things like that start coming in. And so traders, they can set up. A lot of these guys will be are able to set up on the day, so they would be able to arrive on the day and be ready to trade by the time the doors open. They're very used to sort of getting set up within the hour, so that's why it says that traders arrive on the day.
And because you're going to have some discover food, what kind of mechanisms do you have in place to perhaps mitigate fire hazard risks?
So we have a full fire management plan, of which we would develop with our contractor, but we would have fire marshals at the event. We would also make sure that we get the fire plan from all of the traders. We'd also make sure that all the traders have their fire extinguishers on site, and they've also got up-to-date training logs for their fire extinguishers, and their fire extinguishers are all in date and have been serviced. We would also have serviced fire extinguishers on site. We would have a fire management plan. We would have a fire risk assessor that would come and sign off the site prior to opening. So in terms of the fire checks, that's quite extensive, because that's probably the biggest risk. One of the biggest risks is fire.
Okay. And then, it seems like quite a lot needs to get done within 3 days to get this show on the road. I'm a bit skeptical about the time frame that you've given. But would you consider, and that's a very precious 1 week or 8 days of the summer holidays that local children get to use their park. Would you consider any other time of the year to have the event other than August and September, or August and early September?
Certainly. We would consider other months. We would also yeah, we would consider other months. We were sort of pushed by, by the sort of time frame of the licensing committee and the licensing process, that the dates, with the notice period and things like that, the earliest date was the August date, which is where August initially came from. And then, with there being a bit of a backlog, we then looked at potentially September. And Charlotte Dexter was very keen for us to have, certain months or at least once a year in the license. So it just seemed plausible, and it seemed to make sense to have August and September, because they were the 2 months that it was possible for that year, when we felt like 2024 was still possible. Obviously, with the backlog in committee hearings, that it turned out not to be possible. But we would definitely expand the months to June and July. I wouldn't want to take out August and September, because we would need to speak with the events team at the council to find out if that's possible. There's also some conditions in there around not doing it on the same day as match days. Normally the Premier League is done by May, if my football knowledge is right, but I'd need to double check that. But we'd certainly be happy to include June and July, and have a heavy preference on June and July if that's better for residents. In terms of being skeptical on the build dates, are you able to elaborate on that in terms of what part you feel skeptical about?
No, I was just like thinking the worst case scenario you gave was 7 days, and I was wondering if it would be more than that.
No, but you said you were skeptical about it. It seems a lot to do in the days, but what part of it does it seem a lot to do? Sorry.
Well, first of all, putting the whole infrastructure in, and then getting the vendors to set up. And there's a lot of cooking and live cooking. You mentioned there'll be a lot of live cooking and experiencing of the different kinds of foods that'll be done. It's a discovery food journey, and you said it's more of a food and drink focused festival than just a music festival. So I was just thinking about the kind of kitchen setups that need to be put in.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you saw about the live cooking demonstrations, because we don't actually have any live cooking demonstrations for that reason. That there is a lot of infrastructure that needs to go in for that: camera, equipment, production. It's also big risk for food safety often. At those cooking demonstrations, very hard to sort of keep with all of the sort of food hygiene standards. So we tend to steer clear of that. In terms of in terms of the infrastructure, it is very minimal. Like the fencing goes in. The power goes in, the toilets arrive. Any tents that go up, very quick to go up tents, such as stretch tents, and things like that. We also work with individual contractors. So, we might have 10 contractors on site at any one time, each with their own tasks to do. So, I mean, it is plausible for this event to be put up in a day. We could, if we were really pushed, just do Friday and then be live for the Saturday. It's just with our first year, we're trying to buy ourselves some leeway by including the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But it would be in our interest for future years to have the build and the break as short as possible. One, to mitigate our relationship, with the residents, and to keep the residents happy. If we can be in really quickly and out really quickly, then it helps there. And there's also a commercial interest for us. I mean, I know Charlotte Dexter has sort of reference some prices for the hire of the land, but there is some fairly substantial charges for build and break days, and if we can mitigate them, there's obviously a commercial interest for us to do that as well. So all around, there's a very much a commercial interest, and also there's a community interest for us to minimize the build and break days. But what we wouldn't want to do is just give ourselves Friday and then not set the site up properly. And because we haven't set the site up properly, it's going to then lead to further issues, such as we maybe don't place the toilets in the right position, and that's going to lead to people potentially urinating in the street or something like that. So we want to make sure that we've got and given ourselves ample time, which is why we've given 3 days for the build. But yeah, that's the main reason.
Well, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Thank you. Can we have Councillor Wesley Hackett?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple more questions. First one is to the licensing team. Can you tell me what similar sort of events or other events are held on Eelbrook Common or have been?
Hi, Councillor. I might be able to help with that. I'm not aware of any previous events held on the Common. I don't know whether Lorna, whether you are either. We can obviously look back at the history, but I'm not aware of anything that sort of jumps to mind immediately.
Okay, well, when I say events, people have mentioned things like fairgrounds and such like. So I'm looking at it in a very broad way.
Yeah, that's not something that we would deal with because there's normally no licensable activities with fairgrounds. So yeah, we may not be giving you an accurate picture by saying there's nothing. So I'm really saying from a licensing point of view, but there may well have been other, non-licensed events there, but nothing licensed from what we're aware of anyway.
Okay, well, I'd have to ask elsewhere for that. Mr. Hyde, a couple more for you. We've heard you mentioned earlier about Michelin star chefs and Radio 2 style DJs, but there's the live music. What style is that of music? Is it going to be not heavy, loud rock bands, presumably?
No, it's more acoustic music. I mean, like the music and DJ side of things, it very much has to pair with food. There's a commercial interest for us to have music at a sensible level because often at food events, people like to be able to talk to one another. So yeah, for us, it would be acoustic music. It would be singer-songwriters, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So more acoustic than massive, heavy amplified music.
That's correct. Often acoustic music does still need to be amplified, which is why we would have applied for that.
Yeah, I take your point. I meant something like showing my age, Status Quo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There won't be Metallica there.
No. Okay. A couple of more quick points. If we were to grant this application, would you be prepared to accept some agreement to meet the residents to talk about the positioning of entrances and exits, the issues that we raised around toilets, and also the fencing or what you called hard fencing around the playground?
Yeah, I mean, look, from our side of things, like resident meetings are an important part of any event, and actually, if we can meet the residents and like work with them, then again, like there's a massive interest for us, both commercially and just community minded, to be able to have a happy residents and residents that are actually brand ambassadors for the event, which I know looks like unlikely at the minute, but hopefully once the if we were to get the license or once the event happened, then there'd be a bit more positivity within the local borough about the event, and actually we could start to see how we could improve the event, but a bit more positivity around it. Yeah.
Okay, and given that from what you're saying, to an extent, in this particular venue, in this particular event, it's a bit of feeling your way as to how it's going to work, and you'll have to make adjustments. What would your opinion be if we were to, for instance, say we would only be prepared to grant permission for 1 year to see effectively this becomes a pilot scheme, and would mean you'd have to come back for future years rather than at the moment? I believe you're asking for permission license for in perpetuity.
That's correct. Yeah, I think the way from our side of things, we're keen to have a license, year on year, but yeah, we wouldn't be. I mean, look, from our side of things, there's obviously a cost to applying for a license each year. There's also some bureaucracy that comes with it. So it's not necessarily in our interest, but we're also not scared of the event that we're going to put on, and also the way that we'll deliver it. So I'd be confident that we would, have a license for future years if we were granted a license. I think that there'd be positivity within the borough about the event. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't be sat here encouraging it, but if it was to happen, then yeah, I don't see why we would have any issues if we were to come back and apply for a license again.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all from me, Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions from committee members? None. Okay, I go to sum up. Please, can I ask the parties to sum up briefly in the following order? The licensing officer, Lorna, have you got
Nothing
anything?
further to add, Chair.
Nothing to say. Okay, we have Malcolm, and Malcolm is representing Ayman Sadiq, and you have 6 minutes.
Oh, I don't think I'll need that. Thank you very much. As all that was very interesting for me. So I just start off. We're Eelbrook Common. We're not against events, not even against the council making money out of events on the common. We know how tough it is, and we appreciate that. So there's no problem for us there. I am confirmed in my view that this is the wrong event for the wrong place. I think when we started, when we saw the pack that came from the events company, it's not very clear what exactly it is. And I think it was Councillor Calm saying, well, you've got 8 separate discovery events. Where's the focus here? What are you actually focusing on? So on one hand, you can see, oh, it's got some children area where children are painting and drawing. On the other hand, you've got something which looks like the local rap artists are on a stage and it's dark outside and there's loads of people around them. So the actual proposal itself isn't clear enough. Point one. If you take other examples, like I think there's a brand called the Foodies Festival. This is a national brand. It's across the country. If you look at the imagery that they project about themselves, it's really clear what they're offering. So this is not clear, in my view. First point, it's not clear enough to go ahead. Secondly, it's too big physically. It's a quarter of the space on Eelbrook Common taken up by this event. And I'm actually not sure that it matters whether it's June, July, August, September, because the common is very heavily used on hot days by everybody. So if you're here, when your kids come out of school, you can see them out of school. When they come out of school, they're straight into the park. So that's going to happen throughout the summer months. So it's too big. It's depriving local people of their use of the park. There's far too many people, I think. And I think Councillor Harcourt raised the questions. I still have no idea how many people are actually going to be at this event. If it's 5,000, however, just imagine it's one end of a Premier League football ground in a very confined and congested space. That's a lot of people in a congested space in a busy area, which butts onto the King's Road, by the way. I think that point was raised as well. So too big, too many people, right next to a children's playground, which is very, very heavily used. And so there's a problem there, potential problem with children. So you've got public safety, you've got potential nuisance and disorder, you've got children's safety. It's an unclear proposal, and you've got a company whose record in this area is questionable because they've had disorder issues in the past, and they have, and this would be one of the issues about in perpetuity. This is a company that sought to raise the numbers of people that they want to have moving forward in events. So that's it. I mean, that would be our view. Not against events at all on the common, against this one.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you very much. We have William. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, Chair. Thank you very much for that. I'll be very brief. I think Mr. Hyde mentioned the discovery journey was that. I mean, 3 or 4 times during his presentation, and then spoke about food and drink. Now, just to somebody asked a question just a minute ago. The Eelbrook Common has hosted food and drink events before on a small local basis, because I've attended them, and I love street food and I love food events. What I don't see is how the music and the theatre and the comedy is related to the food and drink. If you look at the plan, 2 things, and the majority of the area is given over to the music and the performing, and I don't quite know how they do that. The exits to the west side of the part of the common they're using are straight onto the children's playground. I think it's totally inappropriate. If it was perhaps just a food, possibly with drink, and Harrison mentioned low alcohol, perhaps it should be food and low alcohol, and I'd be happy to support that. But the good news is I've learned what edible cutlery is, because I have had no idea what edible cutlery is, and I could go out and see if I can find it in Waitrose. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda is not here, so we go to Paul. Paul, you have 3 minutes.
Well, thanks very much, Harrison, for answering many of my questions. My view would be that with the numbers still to be decided, I don't see how you can actually approve it. I don't understand the ticketing sessions. I mean, you mentioned 3 to 4 hours, but then it would be repeated, etc. And I still am concerned at the number of people coming into the borough. And I think it's important to get that nailed down, because if that was nailed down, we'd then understand what the footfall would be. You could be a lot more proactive then about all the toilets and then public nuisance. Without those, though, I think it's too much. For it to be in perpetuity without coming back annually, I think is outrageous. And I think the people in Reading, they lost their case and it doubled, and the residents complained, but the council still went ahead. So I am still very negative for putting on an annual event in this location. I think it's inappropriate. I think if you're looking for an annual event to do it, then you should look at some of the other parks. Whether or not Hammersmith and Fulham is the right place to do it, that's for you to decide. But I think it is the wrong place. It is too big, and we will have problems outside of the controlled area.
Thank you, Paul. We have Michael. You have 3 minutes. Okay. Michael is not here. We have Mayor. Mayor?
Thank you. I think the whole thing sounds like an absolute muddle, actually. The way of controlling numbers and people coming in, either they come in sessions with a time ticket, which is not going to work very well. So that hasn't been sorted out. I think the numbers are far too large. The fact that they're not going to be cooking any food there seems to me a total waste of time for a food festival, because presumably everything will be cold and pre-cooked. So I'm not quite sure what exciting new street food you're going to get if it's all cold. They're selling, and do people pay for the food, or how does it work? Secondly, selling alcohol is not a frightfully good idea unless, you know, there's proper food to counteract it. I think the whole thing hasn't really been very well thought out. Again, I think the numbers are far too large. It's far too close to the children's playground. And I just don't, I mean, looking at it, I don't think the whole thing makes sense, actually. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Charlotte. You have 3 minutes.
Yes. I'd like to commend the licensing policy to Harrison, especially on page 12 of the agenda pack, where it states under policy 8 that events will be licensed under a time-limited premises license lasting for the duration of the event. This is at large outdoor events, so that's paragraph 2. So it's quite clear how the council deals with this. And it's also clear that the setup, we do need a plan for that, because King's Road is a red road. I mean, it's a red route. So none of your trucks, none of them can stand on that road. So they're all going to be in Malcolm's Road and a few other roads, and taking up space for 1, 2, 3, 4 days. On the Monday, I'm assuming you also can't have this event on bank holiday weekend, because the Monday you can't break down, you can't make noise, you can't make building noise on a bank holiday. So there's just a lot of things that haven't been really thought out. And I did speak with you several times, and we had some good conversations. But when I started asking about the numbers, then, you know, and still we don't have clear numbers from you. And it turned into a real muddle. And I did send, because a resident of ours sent me, and I saw it myself, that there was a very unfortunate situation in a small park in the next borough, where a child at a family food-ish kind of event, 1,000 people, a child was shot for whatever reason. So I wanted to make sure that the events people knew that, because it heightens their needs to look at public safety from kind of an unfortunate new standpoint. So there's nothing there except facts. That's what facts are about. And we share a lot of facts when we're looking at these licensing applications. So we continue to be concerned about traffic, noise, nuisance, children, everything right outside of the curtilage of your licensed area, which you can't, well, you haven't explained to us how you're going to control that. So we're too confused, I suppose, is the best way to put it. We ask, therefore, because of the muddle that we're in, and we don't have enough facts and we don't understand enough, we're concerned about traffic, a lot of things on our side roads, our residential roads, that the application be rejected at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Councillor Alfonso. 3 minutes.
Basically, I would just like to add to what my residents have said. Clearly, the event has serious public safety issues. I would also ask the committee to reject it on those grounds, and that's all from me.
Thank you. Now we go. Can I ask Harrison to sum up? I'm going to allow you 18 minutes. Is that okay, Harrison?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to sum up that we are trying to deliver, if we were to grant a license, a street food and drink concept that embodies our passion for street food markets, and it's paired with craft drinks and entertainment. And the reason why we've got a mixture of entertainment on there is because we want people to have a focus away from just coming to the event and just eating food or just having drinks. We want people to come to the event, enjoy food, and then sit there, and listen to maybe some background music, or listen to some acoustic live music, or listen to some comedy that's not amplified. And so our real journey here is the reason why we've got a mixture of different things for different demographics, including wine tasting, including arts and crafts for little people, such as the very basics of just drawing, but also options to paint, and also options to paint pots and clays, and various other sort of arts and crafts, very focused around arts and crafts. And we feel like having different brands there actually activating rather than just selling will actually allow people to be able to discover different alcoholic and non-alcoholic brands. I mean, if you look at the UK market right now, non-alcoholic brands, the massive emerging market, and that's something that we want to champion. So when it comes to the event, when people say they're confused about the event, this is a food-led event. The reason why we have additional things, if you look at any food event, Foodies Fest, which has been mentioned, they have comedy at the event, they have live music at the event, and they have background DJs. They also have big acts like Blue and various other things, of which we're not looking to do. So they have a lot louder music, and they actually have music as a real focus. For us, we want music to be background. We want music to be supplementary to the food. The food is the showcase here, and that's why we agreed with the environmental health around the levels of noise, to mitigate against it turning into an urban music festival, as some mentioned. So there is no need to be confused about what this event is. This is a food-led event. Food is the main draw for this event. We'll be working with different Michelin-style chefs to do their taste of street food. We'll be looking at bringing in street food traders from all around the world, from around the UK, from the local borough. We're really looking to have a really food-led experience. But we also appreciate that people look for other things to do at the event to whilst they're eating their food, and they might have kids that they bring to the event that need entertaining. And so actually having a free kids arts and crafts session, or having a paid for pottery session where they can paint in pots and then collect them the following week from the pottery company that's locally based, actually allows them to have a fun experience whilst their parents maybe are enjoying some food and drinks. We've also got retail at the event, so there's chances for, as one of the residents said, he can buy some strudels, some edible cutlery. Unfortunately, not currently stocked in Waitrose, but they should be soon. But yeah, can buy stuff like that at the event and actually discover stuff like that. And that's a really valid point that he's made. Like, you know, off the call today, he's discovered edible cutlery. So what could he discover if he comes to the event? You know, there's lots of things that actually could be really positive for the borough and actually help businesses from within the borough, of which we allow to come to the event at a discounted rate, to showcase to the local borough that this is made actually inside the borough. So it can actually be a really positive experience. Comedy, again, you know, we work with comedians, small and large, to deliver like a fun experience for people whilst they're eating their food. And the big thing here is going back to the food. This is all of the reason why we've got a mixture of different things is some people like walking around with their food and they want to maybe have a little shop, or they want to watch their partner shop. Some people like to sit down and listen to comedy. Some people like to, you know, go and listen to some live music. You know, some people like to just have a DJ in the background whilst they speak to their friends. Others might like have children at the event and like to have their children entertained. And that's the key focus for the event. So when people say they're confused about the event, let's not be confused. Let's set the tone tonight. Like for us, this is a food-led event. You know, everything that we talk about is around the food. Everything that all the pre-event work that we do is bringing in the best food traders, and so that's a really key focus for us. And we want to make that really, really clear. In addition to that, numbers. People use this buzzword of numbers, but actually for us, numbers are going to be set by a number of factors, no pun intended. But we can't give a definitive answer right now. We need to understand that any answer that we give right now could be used as part of the license. So it's not practical for us to give an exclusive number right now, because based on space, numbers have to be worked out based on space, and traders can vary depending on what traders sign up for the food festival next year. Would depend on how much space they need back of house, or how much space they need front of house, and that has to be factored in. You know, if we allowed, you know, traders just to have a 3x3 tent, then we could fit a lot more people in. But traders, to be able to deal with certain volumes, will need back of house space. So that means that we can have less people within the space. So spaces and numbers are worked out with the SAG, the Safety Advisory Group. You know, we will be working with the SAG to make sure that this event is delivered successfully, properly, and you know, adhering to things such as the Purple Guide, and also just guidance that the members of the SAG are going to give. So when we say we're confused over the numbers, and when we say stuff like, you know, we don't know the numbers, that's because numbers can vary on also how an event organizer would like to you know, deal with things such as not overloading the first year and actually running at a slightly reduced capacity, or by traders and how big a space traders need, or by how big a space brands need that are activating. For example, if we were to have Guinness Zero, the non-alcoholic version of Guinness, and they wanted to bring a truck, that truck is going to take up space, and that space means that we can have less people on site. So we can't give a definitive number here today, because we don't know the full extent of the food traders that are going to be at the space, and we don't know the amount of people that are going to be there activating. So we can't give it a definitive number that is going to be put today, because we will need to work to see availability of different traders and different you know, brands that are going to activate at the space. Charlotte Dexter mentioned about the Notting Hill pre-party that was held, where there was a shooting. I mean, a Notting Hill pre-party isn't a food festival. You know, it's a pre-party for a carnival. So I don't see that as a relevant event. In addition, we are happy to work with residents and have a meeting with residents if we were to get the license granted to discuss some of these issues further, and also we're happy to, you know, work with residents on issues around any antisocial behaviour, entrances, exits, the playground, which streets we'll be going up and down to clean, you know, timings. We're also someone mentioned around the site plan is taken up mostly by the stage. I'd refute that. Actually, the site plan is taken up mostly by traders. Currently on the site plan, we've got a bank of 24 traders. The areas are also the areas for music and comedy and things like that are seating areas as well. So there'll be people sat there. We don't have the main area isn't a stage. We don't have a huge stage going in. The main focus here is the food traders, and you can see that via the site plan. So I refute that comment that the main space is around food. It's actually the covered space for seating. As we mentioned earlier, the weather in the UK can definitely vary, so we need to have some level of cover. Again, when people say around the ordering of tickets, we're doing the tickets to mitigate against antisocial behaviour, because we're limiting the number of hours people could drink at the site and could eat at the site. We also expect natural dispersion from the site, so we don't expect people to disperse all within as soon as the site finishes, everyone's going to leave. We expect natural dispersion. In addition to that, we also expect to have food toilets, for on the entrance and also on the exit, to help with comments are made around people urinating in the streets. And we also expect to have lots of different activities at the site to deal with a wide demographic, and we really strongly think that the event will be a success within young families. It's a key market for us for the daytime session is young families. So for us, that's one of the reasons why we put the kids activities on there. So from our side of things, to wrap things up, we certainly feel like there's a clear message that this is a street food festival that is going to celebrate street food from around the world, around the UK, and from the local borough. It's also going to help to champion businesses within the local borough, such as Primetime Lager, which is a lager brand built within the borough, offices within the borough. We're also going to work with brands such as Strudel, which again, is a brand built within the borough. So from our side of things, we want to work with brands in the borough to highlight those to residents and people within the borough. And we're also going to bring brands from outside of the borough to help, create a unique experience around the retail side of things, for people to go shopping and things like that. So for us, the food is the main focus, but we also appreciate that when food's involved, people also would like to be entertained lightly. But the key message around our entertainment is it's there for background entertainment. The main focus here is food, and we want it to be background so people can talk. And the music for us is going to be on a level that will still allow people to talk, which is underpinned by the conditions put on by environmental health. The conditions put on by the police will also underpin the numbers around safety and how we safely manage the numbers. The police have put different conditions on our license around security numbers, minimum numbers, deployment plans, and such conditions. 26 conditions, some harsh conditions on there around CCTV as well for antisocial behaviour and stuff like that. So from our side of things, we feel like that with the SAG and with the events team within the council, we will be able to safely deliver the event and safely deliver the numbers of people that we'll have before at the event. A minimum of 6 months before the event, we'll know the numbers as an estimate, and then we'll be able to confirm the numbers 3 months outside of the event. We'll be able to confirm the total capacity, and that's roughly when we would, if we were to get the license, put tickets on sale. So we would work out the capacity before we put tickets on sale, so that we wouldn't have any issues around numbers. And these numbers would have to be confirmed, and supported by the SAG members, which would include the police. And this is underpinned by the conditions that they put on as well. And alongside the Hammersmith and Fulham events team, who obviously would have a keen focus on making sure this event went well and would want to know the numbers and would want to know and look at the information and the documents. We would produce an event management plan, which would clearly outlay our whole plan from delivering the event, from the build, from the break, from the numbers, from the contractors that we're going to use. And this event management plan is an industry standard document that would be sent out to the safety advisory group. We would have a SAG on this event, and that SAG would then allow all of the local authority to be able to ask us questions about the event, ask us questions about the numbers, ask us questions about the capacities, ask us questions about how we're going to deliver the event safely, and go through the event management plan. And this is a standard, practice for events of this scale. So members of the committee shouldn't be concerned over the numbers, because this is going to be considered strongly throughout our event planning process, but also by the safety advisory group, also by the police, and also by the council events team. And this will be done before tickets go on sale, so we will have no issues over the numbers or the event. That's all I've got to say. But I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Harrison. Now the committee will now retire to take its decision in a separate meeting room. You are welcome to remain in the meeting to hear committee's decision. However, this might take some time. If you do not want to wait, a summary decision will be published on the council's website tomorrow morning. Can I ask members to turn off their video, mute their microphone, and join me in a private team meeting for deliberation? Thank you. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so is everybody here? Okay. Ilbrook Common, New Kings Road, London SW6 4QD, the premises. The committee has considered an application for a new premises license for the sale of alcohol on the premises, the performance of live music, outdoors only, the playing of recorded music, outdoor only, the performance of dance, outdoor only, entertainment similar to music or dance outdoors only, under the Licensing Act 2003. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all the individual circumstances of this case and promotion of 4 licensing objectives, to 1, to grant the application for 1 year only, for 1 weekend, either in August or September, as follows: the performance of live music, outdoor only, Saturday and Sunday from 12 o'clock, 12:00 to 20:00 hours. The playing of recorded music, outdoor only, Saturdays and Sundays, 2:00 hours to 20:00 hours. The performance of dance outdoors only, Saturday and Sunday, 12:00 hours to 20:00 hours. Entertainment similar to music or dance, outdoors only, Saturday and Sunday, 12:00 hours to 20:00 hours. The sale of alcohol on the premises only, Sunday and Saturday, 12:00 hours. The opening hour of the premises are as follows: Saturday and Sunday, 12:00 hours to 20:30 hours. The licensing is subject to any mandatory condition. 4, the license is subject to condition proposed by the police and the environmental protection team as agreed by the applicant. The license is subject to 3 conditions imposed by the committee as follows: the applicants to work with the residents to finalize the layout of the premises. 2, a phone number to be displayed at the premises or on the website so the resident can lodge complaints. 3, a responsible member of staff shall carry out proactive litter patrol inside, outside the premises during the premises opening hours, and specifically at the end of trading hours to ensure that there's no litter associated with the premises, in the premises and the immediate vicinity. And any such litter found shall be collected and returned to the premises for disposal with the premises normal waste or refuse collection. 4, a written record of proactive external litter patrol shall be kept for a minimum of 31 days from the date of the last entry of the record, and this record shall be available for inspection on request by authorized officers of the licensing authority at all times. The premises shall be open. To increase the number of stewards and security personnel, or if recommended during the meeting with residents saga or the management plan. This licensing become operational with immediate effect. If problems are experienced, then an application for review of the premises license shall be made. A copy of this committee's full decision, including its decision and the full text of the condition added to the premises, shall be sent to the parties forthwith. If the applicant or other person who has made a relevant representation is unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the magistrate court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision. Thank you all for joining, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.